To order the Timnath Board of Adjustments meeting.
Yes. Chairperson Mark Sukup.
Here.
Commissioner Rick Collins.
Here.
Commissioner Aaron Pearson.
Here.
Commissioner Lisa Lake.
Here.
Commissioner Brett Hansen.
Here.
Matt, do you want to take over?
Yes, thanks, Chairperson. This is our first Board of Adjustments for many or all of you, and for staff for the most part. But there is a process in the land use code for a variance for elements that don't meet the land use code. And the Board of Adjustments job is to look at those and weigh the facts in the case, so to speak, and give a ruling on those. So tonight's variance request is at 4217 Main Street. It's for a variance from Land Use Code Section 5.3.5, fences, walls, and hedges. And I've outlined, I'm not going to read the entire staff report because it breaks everything down, but I'll hit the highlights of it. There are three elements of the land use code that are being requested to have a variance from. First being is an unbroken expanse of a fence that's greater than 50 feet. And then there's a 50% open category, and then there's no more than 42 inches high in a front yard setback. So the fence that's being proposed by the applicants is a 100-foot long fence, and it's actually to replace an existing chain link fence in the front yard. And that actually sits right on their property line. We have some exhibits that the applicant will share, but I'll just walk through this first, and then we'll pull up the exhibits here in a minute. Couple of things, the Board of Adjustments responsibility when evaluating a variance request. There are a few categories here that are required. The variance shall not be granted if it would be detrimental to the public good, create a conflict with the town comprehensive plan, or impair the intent or purpose of the land use code. The Board of Adjustment may approve with conditions, or deny the request. The applicant for the variance has the burden of proof to establish the facts. The Board of Adjustment may impose reasonable conditions. And then a variance may be granted for an indefinite duration or a specific period of time. And this last one, no single decision of the Board of Adjustment sets a precedent. So I'd like to just take a moment with that one. So if this was ruled in favor, it's not a precedent setting. So another property owner coming in asking for the very same thing, using this as a precedent, it would have to be weighed on its own merits. In addition, there's several review criteria, 6 of them. The Board of Adjustment may approve a variance only finding that all of the criteria have been met. So each of these criteria need to be met. And part of the land use code requires that staff actually put together a recommendation and a response to each of these. And so staff has done that in the packet. I'm not going to read all of our responses, but I'll hit some of the highlights on those as well. The couple of key points that we as staff see is that the property is in irregular shape, and it's actually a series of lots in Old Town that were merged together and created one large lot, thereby creating a very significant side yard. The side yard of this lot is actually the garden space that the property owners use and enjoy. So it is unique in that regard. So this side yard is about 100 feet wide and has been improved by the property owners for their garden space. There's a hardship test here that is also to be laid out. The hardship being that they didn't create this hardship. And so the property owners, and the real concern here at the crux of it is actually the introduction of businesses in Old Town that have noise and other traffic and other things that this property owner inherited basically when those businesses came in. Town council, this council portion and prior council approved conditional use permits for, in specifics, the Timnath Beer Works. That business has permission to do certain things within certain hours, and they are in full compliance with those conditions of that use permit. However, it does have, there is a burden imposed, a hardship, if you will, to this property in its location and position in relation to that, where staff has acknowledged that there is some noise concerns and other things, lights from parked cars and the like, that do have an impact on this property. So therefore, we have determined that it isn't self-imposed. However, the offending entity, if you will, is within their rights as well. So we're trying to weigh the merits here, in that the request, then from the staff's perspective, the request for this variance, we are actually in support of. So, and I've got all the other details from each of those conditions in here. I did actually include in the report, and the staff recommendation is a condition that I would put forward from the staff's perspective, and council or the Board of Adjustment in this case would like you to weigh. And then, if you want to change that or enhance it or make any modifications to it, we can do that as well. The conditions that I was suggesting is that there be a kind of a time sensitive nature to this. Not that it's time specific, that it is more condition specific. So if the conditions in Old Town were to change in some way, the business were to go away, to change their hours, if there was a building or something built on the vacant parcel in between, or if there were other things that may change, that this burden was relieved, and that would allow maybe the conversation between the property owner and the town staff to agree to that the fence could be removed at that point. And specifically so that it's not a ongoing precedent, and I use the word precedent, that there is a look and a feel along Main Street and a setback, that we've tried to encourage, that the fence that's a privacy fence be at the front of the house and not up at the right of way. So just to look and feel, if you drive down Main Street, the preference would be to have lower open, 50% open style fences right on the right of way. And then if there were a screening fence, it would be set back further. So, but in this case, for this period of time that it may be, staff would be supportive of that request for this variance. So with that, I'll turn it over to Denise Fisher, who's the owner applicant, to do her presentation, and then I'm available to answer questions and the like. So, thanks.
Okay, is that okay? Okay, so I hope you've all looked at the packet and had a chance to read the proposal. But the first thing I wanted to do is express appreciation for the businesses across the street, just so that nobody misunderstands what we're doing. And just especially for Beer Works, I'm glad Valerie's here to hear me say this in person, but they've created a well-loved community hub, and I enjoy watching their canine customers walk by to go get their beer and see the blood bank or the blood drives that they do and stuff like that. Also, Becca Bay's farmers markets. That's truly a fulfillment of the community vision that a lot of us had before a lot of you were here. And so I just wanted to express that we really appreciate those businesses across the street. We want to see them successful. At the same time, however, their success has created negative impacts on us. And so I suppose maybe this is a good time to show some of the photos. If you want to just move on to the photo part. Yeah, so this is the front of our property, and And of course, it is the chain link that we're going to replace. Actually, if you could move on through, and I'll just explain. So this is the fence that will remain. It's a antique wrought iron fence that we want to keep, and it is 50% open or whatever. And that's what we want to replace with our what are they called? Gothic style pickets. And so the next photos will show how we do have, that's the proximity of Beer Works to our property, to that part of the yard. And we do have a clear view of their patio, their outdoor seating area from inside the yard. That's taken from just inside the fence. And then if you want to go on further, that's a little further in. That's in the summertime when there's leaves. And then if you go on further down in the seasons when there isn't any foliage, it leaves us pretty exposed to their outdoor seating area. And so we would like to have some privacy from that. Also, they installed an outdoor sound system this spring, and that's been a little bit hard for us because even though it's within the decibel levels, which is 55, I believe is what it's allowed to be on our property. As long as it doesn't exceed that, it's within the code. But at 55, I can sing along. And so it's kind of a constant background noise for the hours that they're playing their music. Fortunately, and also they were starting rather early and then going sometimes past the cutoff of 7:30. So those were some of the issues that we were having up until a couple of weeks ago. And then I've been talking with Valerie Miller, and I'm really grateful that she's been willing to work with us. They've turned the volume down. They're cutting it off at 7:30. They're not playing before noon when they open. And that's been a huge help. At the same time, they do have 8 special events permits that they can utilize. And so that allows for outdoor live bands and stuff like that. So so there is a significant impact on our outdoor area if we're out there, and we do enjoy our yard a lot. We're out there gardening a lot. So, and at times it's actually been audible inside the house as well. So, and then the headlights from the parking lots. I think you can see the parking lot a little bit in that photo, maybe not. Yeah, there's, so Beer Works put in a short fence for their parking area that where the headlights were directed straight at us. And so in the wintertime, especially, people would turn on their car and then sit there for a while and let it warm up. I don't know. And it was pretty much spotlighting our house. They put a fence up across that area, and that has solved that problem. However, you can see, Alpine Lot is used as a parking lot for both the farmers markets and Beer Works. So we get those headlights too, and sometimes they're parked right straight at us. And so anyway, a buffer would help with all of this. At one time, there was discussion about a fence being put up on the south side of the outdoor seating area at Beer Works, but I don't totally understand the reasons why it can't be put in, but I've been told that it's not possible. Also, I think that a fence along the west side of the Alpine lot would have been a great idea, because that would have solved a number of issues. It would shield the parking, it would block the outdoor seating area and help buffer some of the noise. But that's not possible either. And so that's why we're making this proposal. We're basically putting up a buffer for ourselves. And so our hope is to have successful businesses across the street, but also to maintain as peaceful a home as we possibly can on our property. And then I also would like to request that the permit fees be waived, because this fence is pretty costly. If we were going to do a fence to code, it would be significantly less than what we're trying to accomplish here by putting up a buffer. So as I understood, I don't know where Chad is. Chad, hi. He told me it's about $180 for about a $5,000 price on the fence. So if we could at least not add to our cost, that we would appreciate it. Oh yeah, and I forgot. Yeah, Sugar Trail. is also now a through street. So that also comes right into this part of the property.
Okay, thank you very much, Denise Fisher.
And this is, Chairperson, this is a public hearing as
Right,
well.
I
So we have
understand.
to- Okay.
So do we have any people signed up for public hearing? Has anybody out there want to talk? Okay, no. All right. So you done?
So I wanted to point out the waiver of the fees is permissible by the Board of Adjustment if they're so inclined. So per the land use code and the municipal or the actual charter, there gives there's runway for the Board of Adjustment to waive those fees if you were open to that.
And I'm sorry, what fees are we talking about?
It's for the actual building permit for the fence itself. If it was approved, you have that as an
There would
option.
be a building permit
Permit
for the
fee.
fence that would be due, and we're waiving that.
You
Is-
could.
We could waive it. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Council, any comments or?
Based on the valuation, we've run some numbers. We'd have, once we get the specific request, we think it's about $180 roughly.
Lisa?
Could you, Matt, could you just go over again? You had that recommended approval with conditions. So just to be clear, are you saying that with that, you are recommending that if the situation changes, that we then require her to remove the fence, or that it's an option that she can remove it?
Well, I was putting it in there that if the conditions change, that staff would meet with the applicant and we could talk through. It wouldn't be necessarily required. It would have to be, in my write-up, I say an affirmative review with those change conditions. So if they both the staff and the applicant said, yeah, things have changed enough, we don't need to have this fence any longer. And I know that maybe that's a hard road to go, but I think there's a goodwill there maybe from the applicant if that is so inclined.
Would that come back to council to
No,
remove
that
it, or
would-
that would just be kind of between
Right,
you
that
all?
would be at the staff level if you're open to that.
Matt, it sounds, I mean, it's not binding on either, so I don't know as you're adding much to. I mean, it doesn't sound like we're adding anything. I mean, maybe you want to put it as the intent of the parties today, but there's no commitment on either side on it. So I don't know as adding those conditions does a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I
Lori,
think,
first off, let me ask Lori.
Well, I'm also a little concerned that they're claiming a hardship now, and they're spending their own money to put the fence up, if we agree. And then they have to spend their money to take it down. And who says the conditions changed, what constitutes a change? It puts things really up in the air, and they are talking about a considerable expenditure. So I don't know what the estimate is, but I know as a homeowner, if I put up a Gothic fence, it's pretty pricey.
agreed. And I was trying to put in here some kind of parameters around something. So in lieu of putting a time certain or a date certain, it's more of a cooperative effort. And so looking to the Board
But
of
that'd be a
Adjustments.
cooperative effort, whether you put it in here or not, correct?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Rick.
Has the applicant seen this staff recommended approval and conditions? And does the applicant agree to those?
They've seen it. I haven't gotten confirmation whether they agree to it or not.
Denise Fisher, do you want to step up and comment upon just the conditions here? The question is have you seen them and your thoughts?
I don't remember seeing the conditions portion. I thought I read it thoroughly, but maybe I didn't. But I'm concerned that we would have to have another expense. That's my big concern about having any kind of condition is if we put up this fence, it's already costly for us. I don't want to then pay to have it taken down and replaced. So
Okay.
I would love to have a fence that's, once those conditions were, I mean, the circumstances across the street, if they were to change, I'd love to have a different fence. because privacy is not my first choice.
Okay.
And so if
Okay,
if the
thanks.
town was willing to pay for it,
No,
I've
then
got
I'd
a-
agree to that.
we hear you. Rick.
Maybe to solve council's problem on that is to look at putting language in as long as it stays under the current ownership. Unless the current owner and the town agree to change, it stays the way it is once it's fixed. The buffer's in there. And treat it like a state land lease. If you put that improvement in there at a certain amount and you ever have to take it out, we could look at language that would allow to reimburse the owner for that.
No?
No, thanks. All right, so,
Did I confuse you?
Well,
Well,
no, you
it's-
didn't
it's
confuse
two
me at all,
things.
but I think now it's gotten more complicated.
Yeah, you
than
put it
what
on
we're
a
gonna be
time
able to
certain.
Put in there.
Yeah, put it on a time certain. And so she would know as the current owner that as long as she owns the property, it's fine unless they both agree, the town and, because if we think it's good today, we should think it's good tomorrow.
Thoughts?
It seems to me the simplest way is to simply, would be to simply approve this. And then if they need to have another hearing in 10 years, 15 years, when conditions change, there can be another hearing at that point rather than trying to play a chess match 30 moves ahead.
As long as we don't put a cloud on her property.
Right.
I guess I don't have anything to say about this condition, but I would just want to make sure that the fence stays in a nice looking manner because it is bordering Main Street. The other fences that are referenced here for precedence, and I know there is no precedence, as Matt pointed out, but none of those are on Main Street themselves. They're on side streets. So I would just want to make sure that fence stays in a good manner where it wasn't unsightly, because sometimes wood fences get, they
get old.
fade and they get old. So I would want to make sure that would be something. And also I hope that this would alleviate the points of contention between the neighboring businesses and your property, if we were to approve this.
Go ahead, Matt. Do you got a comment?
The Board of Adjustment, I mean, I've suggested a condition and I think that it was trying to work towards that middle ground. So the Board of Adjustment, I think you guys, your decision and conditions, whatever reasonable conditions you want to put on here, staff will gen those up and we'll provide those to the applicant.
I have no problem with the fence, but I do, wood fences after 10 or 15 years, I mean, you got to keep them stained, you got to keep them upgraded, and they take a lot of upkeep to keep going. And I don't know how you dictate that so that it looks that it's not an eyesore 15 years from now. Go ahead, Lisa.
I guess for that point, I would just assume, like we do in every other homeowner, that they're going to take care of their yard and not have to put any kind of stipulation that we wouldn't put on any other homeowner. If it follows, code enforcement goes around. If something's not meeting code, they can get a letter just like anyone else can get a letter if you're not meeting code. So I would just assume, I'm going to assume that you're going to take care of your property, I guess is kind of what I would say to that.
And I wasn't suggesting we put a condition on there. I'm just making up a statement. And I guess code enforcement would be the way if it fell into a unsightly state, then code enforcement would be able to bring that up. So
If I might, I really like the idea of making the variance go away after ownership changes. So for the life of their ownership, because otherwise you have a permanent variance that never goes away.
Right. And you could tell these folks take good care of their property.
Yeah. No, there's no question.
I see him out there working a lot, kind
So-
of deal, so.
Um, So let's do this first. Well,
What,
let's just get a nod, because I think there's a two-part thing here that Matt's added. One is, just as a nod, it's not a vote, does everyone feel comfortable with approving a variance for a fence? Okay. So then secondly, do we want to include the conditions that Matt suggested here it's on page 6 of 20?
I wouldn't be opposed to putting that in as our town attorney has said, to say, hey, this goes with the life of the owners for the length that the owners still own that property.
But realize all Denise Fisher needs to do is say, I don't agree with you, and nothing happens. So we're almost being redundant is what I'm saying. I mean, my thought is we trust the homeowner to sit there and keep the property upkeep, which they have a beautiful house there. And we don't put the conditions in because they're non-binding anyway. If they're binding, then that's a different discussion, but I don't think anyone's suggesting that they're binding. So.
There's the question of if we tie the variance to the ownership though. So when ownership changes, that's binding. Does this variance go away or not when ownership changes?
But
The condition, I agree with you as written in the staff report, they both have to agree that yes, that seems redundant
yeah,
and unnecessary. But if we're tying it to ownership, then if and when the property eventually transfers ownership, then whoever the new owner is,
require it to be removed.
they could either be removed or that new owner could come to the board.
Okay, so that's an additional condition you're suggesting,
Yeah,
and that is a variance that we'd have. So are you suggesting that you want to propose that?
Yeah, I'm okay with the suggestion from our legal counsel.
No. She
That is what she said. Yeah.
she wasn't responding to. Just a sec. We've got a recommendation of conditions here, which are non-binding.
Right.
Now, we can put a variance on the property, which would say that fence has to be removed upon change of ownership.
Yes,
Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm proposing that. Yes.
Okay.
let me throw out an alternative.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm going to always side, if I can, on the side of the owner. And I'm going to say, if we say we're going to grant the variance and take care of the fence, and if you ever sell the property, tell the new person buying it, they have to come in and get this same variance if they want to keep that fence there.
I think that's what he
Same
just
kind
said.
of, yeah, just.
Lisa?
I'm going to actually disagree a little bit. I think if we let them put the fence up, if the fence is nice, somebody else buys the house, they like the fence. I don't care if they keep the fence. I mean, the fence will be there. If somebody moves in 15 years, I don't feel the need to make them change that personally.
So at this point, and we can discuss after we have a motion. I need someone to suggest a motion. And the motion is to approve the variance. And then if you want to put conditions on that, then you can on your motion.
I make a motion that we approve the variance with no conditions.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor of the recommendation, of the motion, say aye.
You probably have to have a roll call vote.
No, we don't.
With adjudication.
We don't need no roll call vote.
Chairperson, can I add one thing? There is this ask for a waiver of the fee as well. And so.
We'll make that as a second motion.
Second
Okay.
motion.
This is complicated enough. So, I know, you're fine. We're getting there. So first off, let me call the vote. So all those in favor of the motion as proposed, say aye.
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 All opposed? It carries unanimously. Now, are you going to suggest a motion from Matt, or what do you suggest?
So the request is a waiver of the fees. So I think the Board of Adjustment should make a motion to, in addition, waive building permit fee.
I'd like to make a motion to waive the building permit fees.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Passes unanimously. Any other actions? Okay, could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. All right. Melissa, could you do a call to order and roll call for Timnath Development Authority meeting?
Yes. Chairperson Mark Sukup,
Here.
Commissioner Rick Collins, Commissioner Aaron Pearson,
Here.
Commissioner Lisa Lake,
Here.
Commissioner Brett Hansen.
Here.
Do we have any public public comments? Okay. This is all a consent agenda, so do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. With no further other, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. We're adjourned. Okay, Melissa, would you call to order the town council meeting?
Yes. Mayor Mark Sukup,
Here.
excuse me. Mayor Pro Tem Rick Collins. Here. Councilmember Aaron Pearson.
Here.
Councilmember Lisa Lake.
Here.
Councilmember Brett Hansen.
Here.
Public comments, Melissa. You wanted a break, go ahead.
Okay. First up would be Raymond Wright.
Good evening. I'm Raymond Wright. I live at 5250 4th Avenue in Timnath, Old Town Timnath, proud to say. I'm here to comment on something that the mayor said back on the 25th of May, final of the meeting. Something about there's no reason to come to Old Town Timnath. Just 3 cities, 3 businesses. I take objections to that. I was in planning and zoning for 8 years. We struggled trying to come up with ideas to get businesses to come to Old Town. It kind of got lost with Timnath, Walmart, and Costco, and others came along. But if you look at any small town and throughout the United States, their Old Town started where Old Town Timnath is. Old Town Timnath is the reason you folks are sitting up there. We agreed as a group of 25 people in that community to plan for growth in a town. So anybody that makes fun of Old Town Timnath, it's sad. It really is sad. So my thought is, Your comments, Mayor, were not well taken by me when you said only 3 town businesses. Why should anybody come here? Well, yeah, okay. Fort Collins started out with 3 businesses. Whistler started out with 3 businesses. Everybody else started out with 3 businesses. Give the business owners a break and patronize them people. So I do thank you for your attention, but it is important that old towns have an old town. Thank you.
Before we proceed, I'd like to comment on that. First off, I apologize if I offended you. It was absolutely not my intent, and it was not meant to be disrespectful at all. And I realized what my words said, but they weren't my heart. Realize that I have lived in northern Colorado my entire life. I used to hunt pheasants in Timnath. My brother ran a pig farm in Timnath. We used to date Cookie Brooks, and Rod Nielsen was on my football team. I have great admiration. Obviously, I wouldn't be spending all the amount of time that I am here as the mayor if I had any disrespect for Timnath. It's a great place. I love the town. I love what's being here and stuff. What I was trying to express, and I did very poorly, and I admit that, my words were not appropriate and were not what I meant. What I was trying to do was spread out. The context was we were talking about town events, and I believed that we should spread out the town events as the population grows. And we have 2,500 people in Timnath Ranch, and we've got 400 or 500 in Old Town. No disrespect to Old Town, no at all, but we ought to have some events in Timnath Ranch because the population growth had gone up there. I did not intend to, although I will say my words look that way, and so I apologize totally. And I hope you accept my apology.
I accept. Thank you.
Thanks. Was not to be disparaging to Old Town, but to say we need to be more inclusive of the rest of the town, not just Old Town. And that's what I should have said. I didn't. I admit I didn't, and I apologize to you.
Thank you, Mayor. And I also wanted to thank the town for a spectacular 4th of July show. Very well put. Hopefully next year there'll be food trucks available. But other than that, I've heard good things from a lot of people about Timnath fireworks. So keep up the good work, and I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comments?
Val, I know that you submitted it. Okay.
My name is Val Miller. I live at 5970 Jasper Street here in Timnath. And I did also want to address the comments from the mayor. I'd like to read this if that's okay, just to keep my thoughts collected. Dear Mayor, council members, staff, and community members, my name is Val Miller, and I am the general manager of Timnath Beer Works located at 4138 Main Street, Timnath, in the historic Colorado Feed and Grain Building. I wanted to come here this evening on behalf of Timnath Beer Works, our staff, and our customers regarding the comments made during the council meeting held on Tuesday, May 25th. During a discussion about the CYO sponsorship request, Mayor, you stated, and I quote, "We don't have things special about Timnath. Step back, there is not much. We've got an old town that has 3 or 4 businesses, so we don't have anything real unique." Earlier in the evening, you also referred to downtown as a residential main street. Well, I would like to say on behalf of Timnath Beer Works that we do think there is a lot special about Timnath. In 2020, Timnath Beer Works was actually voted best brewery in Northern Colorado by NoCo Styles. There was over 25,000 voters for that. And this was just after 2 years in business, one of which was during a pandemic. We hope that the town is proud of the community hub that we have worked so hard to provide. We have customers that regularly travel from other cities and even other states. They've read about us to enjoy our space, our beers, our staff, and the food trucks that we host. They come to meet family and friends, to conduct business, and to support small businesses. We were also disappointed to hear recently that the 2021 Taste in Timnath will not be held in Old Town. Small businesses such as ours appreciated the support from the town, the opportunity to introduce our gathering spot to the community, and the opportunity to support the other local businesses and nonprofits. We also appreciated the opportunity to highlight our friends at the Colorado Feed and Grain, Fine and Funky, J&J, as well as non-retail businesses in Old Town. We hope that in the future, we can find ways to highlight the unique Old Town area and its potential. As far as being special goes, we feel our space is special, our staff is special, our efforts during the pandemic were very special, our hosted food trucks are special, our customers are special, and last but not least, our community is special. Thank you for your time.
Any other public comments?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, the consent agenda. There's a lot of unique things in here. Does anybody have any questions on it before I? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Reports. I got a quick report, and I hope, Chief, you relay this. I had the opportunity to do a ride-along with Chuck Richards, thank you. Chuck Richards last Friday night. And I'll tell you what, I learned a lot, so I recommend it to anybody who hasn't done it yet. But I learned a lot about the incredible complexity of the police department and what they do, and it was really eye-opening. But I'll tell you what was the most impressive thing that I saw is not that Officer Richards would go along and wave to the people that are walking on the sidewalks and that at all. I mean, I thought that was cool, but what was more impressive to me was that people waved back. And they had big smiles on their face, and they're happy to see him. And obviously, he had done that many, many times before, and they expected to wave to their friend, the police officer who was driving by. And I thought, what a special town we've got to have that going on and to have it carrying on, and what a special police department we have. So Police Chief, I want to commend you on what a great department and how you've created such a impressive atmosphere here in town. Anybody else have a report? Okay. Anything special you want to bring up, Lisa? Where are you? Okay. Anything special you want to bring up, Don? Anything special you want to bring up, Matt? Chief, anything special you want to bring up? Community survey, Kim.
I want to bring something up.
I
No,
didn't give you a choice, did I?
I know, right? I won't spend too much of your time, but I do just want to make sure that you've had a chance to review the survey that's in your packet. As you know, this is sort of our second crack at it, and we really did take the time to define our priorities and what we're trying to accomplish. I want to just connect our conversation from earlier today when we discussed some specific projects where we're going to want some more granular feedback. So for example, what sort of amenities should be in the next phase of improvements at the community park? Those would be separate efforts, and our intention here is to get some high level feedback to help guide policy decisions, and then really use other tools and opportunities to dig down into the details of smaller projects. So with that in mind, I'll ask if you have any last minute feedback or questions for me as we try to finalize this draft.
Go ahead, Rick.
Okay, on the draft that I'd read, a couple of questions. One is we're not very specific on governance when we talk about term limits. And I think we should be more specific. If we want to put term limits on the mayor and council, let's put 2 terms. and see what the voters, put some number in there. If it's 2 terms, 3 terms, but the standard usually out there is 2 terms. So
everyone
that would
okay
be
with that?
one.
Okay.
The
I
other
think-
one is
Do you have that?
27.
Hold on. Did you get that, Kim?
Yep, add the specificity of term limits would
Whether
be,
there should be a 2-term limit for the
Got it.
mayor and council.
got it.
The question 27 deals with ranked voting, also known as ranked choice. Why are we getting into this?
Because
If it's good for
because the
San
mayor goofed
Francisco,
up
it
and
shouldn't be good for
suggested
us.
it.
I wasn't gonna
That one
say.
I would take, that one I'd take out, or you would see the likes of some of the funniest campaigns for this thing to try to convince
Your
people.
council supports you in removing that from our survey.
Like,
It's
So let's
really
remove that.
complicated.
the third one on governance is campaign contribution limits. If we're going to limit it, I think what we should do is in there, put language, if we don't specify an amount, say the council has the ability to set an amount. So future councils, if they want to set it at $250 or 500 or 1,000, they can do it. It gives us guidance that we can go ahead and do that instead of just say, should there be term or campaign contribution limits?
And then just a note on that one, the Fair Campaign Practices Act does apply, and there are campaign limits already. It's just not specific in our code right now.
That's right.
So a clarifying question, would council prefer language that says, would you like your council to set term limits, or excuse me, campaign contribution limits? Or would you like to see a specific number?
I'd recommend that the council have that ability, because once you pass it, then until you pass another thing to take it off and change it, it's there.
So I think we have that in here, don't we, Rick? Or explain to me what you'd like to change.
It doesn't say who's going to set those.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe where it's a question mark, put as set by the town council.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
You guys good with that? Okay. Anybody else have any other changes? Great job. Thanks
Oh
for.
my goodness, we're actually going to do this thing.
Thanks for continue your tenaciousness with this, Kim. I appreciate
I
it.
appreciate all of your work and feedback, so thank you.
Any other matters of business? Anybody? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.